thing going. All right, thanks everyone for joining today. We're going to go through domains 4 and 6 today, and we have Cheryl Gendron, who's with National Fenestration Rating Council, and she worked with Nancy Hooks, who will hopefully be joining us, but is a little under the weather. So Nancy will jump in if her voice allows, but was instrumental in kind of putting together this presentation with Cheryl. So Cheryl's going to take it away.
Thanks. Hi, group. My name is Cheryl Gendron. I'm the NFRC's meeting planner. NFRC, National Fenestration Rating Council. No one knows what fenestration means, so please don't feel embarrassed that you might not know. Fenestration is any opening in a building. So our group, my association, is a rating council that does ratings for windows, doors, and skylights. It's just like when you go car, you would be able to measure one against, 1 miles per gallon versus the other. That's what we do for windows, doors, and skylights when you're shopping. So anybody have any questions, contact me afterwards if you're looking for windows. I know more than I ever wanted to, believe me. I do feed them chocolate, but I also know a little bit, just enough to be dangerous about these ratings. But let's get to serious business, which is the CAE test, December 5th. It's coming up. I was just telling Mary that I cannot stay at this level of nervousness for 2 weeks. I don't know what it will do to my body. So I'm hoping that as we're going to take some time to go over domain 6 and domain 4 today. But I'm going to kind of zoom through it. I definitely welcome any questions because I really, actually Lisa with the American Psychiatric Nurses Association called in and made the suggestion that that we go over some questions, maybe things that you might have gotten wrong on practice exams. So I want to make sure we have time to do that at the end. Before I go much further, I just wanted to thank Nancy Hooks, who spent time to put together the Domain 6 on Public Policy and Government Relations portion of the slideshow today. Thank you very, very much, Nancy. And it doesn't look like you are hooked in for audio. If you are, please interrupt me, and you can go ahead and lead this. But it doesn't look like you are, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and we'll roll through Domain 6 and Domain. So, Domain 6, Public Policy and Government Relations. Some key terms that you're going to need to know for this domain is coalition, government relations, lobbying, lobbyist, a political action committee, and public policy. I know for from hearing from some people that took the test already and are taking it again, that there were a lot of questions about coalitions and, more than even these other rules. And I'm going to pause every once in a while so people can ask questions, maybe add something that I haven't thought of. Nancy, it does look like you have your audio. Do you want to lead us through these slides, or are you okay with me? I'm going to keep going then. So OBRA requirements. So the OBRA requirements regarding government relations is there's no business tax deductibility, that you have to let your membership know of the dues percentage. And also, as an association, you have the opportunity, if you don't let them know of the notification, you can pay a proxy tax on the amount. And this is all related to PAC and lobbying expenses with your organization. So it's important to know what is lobbying versus not, especially because we've learned that a 501c3 has limited abilities to lobby, while a 501c6 is unlimited, but of course has lots of guidelines. So it's important to know what is lobbying. Lobbying is communication to influence legislation. It's having any kind of this contact with legislative and executive branches about influencing legislation. And it also includes a grassroots campaign, which is grassroots being when you're getting your membership to be involved and your membership to act on behalf of changing legislation. What doesn't equal lobbying? So there are lots of things that a government relations department can do without it falling into the lobbying category. So public communications, just educating about legislation, requests for information, testimony, like if you're giving testimony at the request of a governmental body, committee responses to, again, requests, anything that's legally required communications, adjudication statements, and a public proceeding communication would not be considered lobbying. So again, a 501c3 can definitely have an active government relations department without falling into trouble. So lobbying in the IRS 990 form, again, we've learned about the 990 form where you are communicating different things on that 990. Every association from 0 to 500 to whatever has to do the 990 every year in some way. So some of the things that you're recording on that 990 is if you're a 501c3, actually all of them, no substantial part. I'm not really sure, test minus 5%. I don't know if someone wants to speak on that. If you do want to elaborate on that, please speak up. I'll keep going. A 501H election. One of the questions that I've seen recently on a practice exam was what equals, for a 501c3, what equals a non-substantial part or a a minimal, what does it mean? And what the answer was, only the government can tell you that, like only if you end up going to court. There's no 5%. It's not even, you can't say that. It's unsubstantiated. The safe way to do it is by using the 501H election. There's also for nonprofits, 501c3, again, if you're using that 501H form, there's a formula. And the absolute max that you can spend on lobbying would be $1 million. And that, again, there's a formula for figuring that out. The proxy tax option, we talked about that, of just paying 35% of all lobbying costs instead of, communicating to your members and figuring out these fees. So if a 501c3 exceeds the limits over 4 years, your tax-exempt status could be in jeopardy. So again, that 4-year is figured out with a percentage. I think it's 20. I'm not going to try to guess, but it's in your notes. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to this information? And I will keep going. So political action committees. No matter what, 501c3s, you are not allowed to have a PAC ever. You need to register within 10 days of formation. Administration solicitation costs are okay to pay. No association payment to PAC or a candidate. So your association can pay the administrative costs, but you are not allowed as an association to make payments or contribute to a PAC or candidates. The total annual contribution limit is $5,000. PAC may not solicit a corporation, but they can solicit the members within the corporation. And I remember this too, that a corporation can only accept, allow one PAC in to solicit. So you also must receive corporate okay to solicit the employees. So before you go in and start soliciting the employees, you have to get that corporation's okay. That's an interesting piece right here. I don't know if this would ever come up in the test, but my thought is, so how does a corporation know if it's never okay to solicit the employees without their permission? How does that even work? Do we have any government people on the line? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to keep on going, but it's something to think about. So also a PAC may solicit employees 2 times per year. Government relations plan. Okay, so the steps, this is a big thing with the questions and the practice exams I've seen, is tell us the first thing, or what are the steps, what are included in a good government relations plan, best practice. So Nancy's laid those out for us. Identify and prioritize the issues, develop an advocacy leadership, educate and engage members, communicate effort, value, and ROI, integrate advocacy into other association activities, leverage technology for the grassroots, and build coalitions for increased leverage. Issue management. So issue management is related to GR, and it's influenced and managed by defining a specific goal, crafting a clear message, identify audience, implement multifaceted campaign, assess campaigns' momentum, and respond to public perception. So we're really looking at the scan function here, making sure that we're always looking for that. SPY, all those key terms that we've learned and are carrying throughout everything. One of the questions that I saw in a practice exam recently was how many issues can an organization look at and handle at one time? This was, I don't know exactly where this was in the readings, but this was a question under issues management. And the answer was 10. That was surprising to me. I don't think I got it right. Does anybody, before we go into the questions, does anybody have anything they'd like to add or anything I might have missed here with Government Relations Domain 6?
I think the only thing I would add is I remember that the PAC limit for individuals to give is 5,000. And forgive me if you said that, but I feel like that was one that you were going to.
One of the, yeah, so we did talk about that. And also think about looking at, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if anybody has this, I'd love to hear your insight on that to become like a super PAC. So that's something to think about, like what's the amount there. I thought that amount was 5,000. So maybe I am wrong on that.
So I was looking at the terms and definitions last night and looked up super PACs and didn't remember reading about them really. So I was looking them up online, and basically there's no limit. That's the deal with super PAC. There's no limit to the amount that anybody can contribute ever during the year at any point.
Really?
So the good way to remember that is that Stephen Colbert started a super PAC, and there is no limit to his insanity.
Oh,
that is exactly what my husband and I were doing this last night. We looked up that video where he and Jon Stewart did this, like, oh, we're not allowed to collaborate, or we're not allowed to collude, or whatever.
Right.
On the phone together in the same room, discussing the campaign with the lawyer on the phone. Look up the video. It is hilarious.
It's so good.
Also,
I remember.
Yeah, it helped me really understand.
Oh, good.
That is fantastic.
I will put
and also think about gifts. I don't think we talked about that, like gifts to any kind of, I mean, when we're looking at, I saw a question, what is okay gift-wise? Box seats to a sporting event to thank the legislator for their support. Gifts, a jersey. Tickets to, or I think one was contributing to a legal fund or something like that. And actually contributing to the legal fund was the only one that was correct. If you remember, I don't think we need to know exactly, but we need to remember there are very strict rules about gifts and contributions that are not through a PAC or that an association can even do. Not as fun as your example, Lisa. But anyway, let's get to the questions then. All right, so when setting up a government relations program, you should consider the following first. A, set up a PAC and solicit contributions. B, hire a lobbying firm. C, set up a new staff department dedicated to government relations. Or D, determine what specifically the association and membership wish to promote and defend. Does anybody want to take a gander? Remember, we're thinking as a CSE, we're thinking as a high level. And Tammy took the shy way and sent the answer.
Yeah.
D, good job. So D, determine what specifically the association and membership wish to promote and defend. So going backwards, all these are actions. So the first thing that we want to do when we're looking at questions is to find the most highest level, the scan, right? So excellent. Another question, what entity establishes the rule for registration of a federal lobbyist? A, federal court, B, federal legislator, C, state elections commission, or D, federal election commission. I can tell you I struggled with this one. I just kept thinking it was B, but what is it, everyone?
It's B, but I did the exact same thing you did. I selected Federal Election Commission, and when I went back and looked at it, I thought, oh, Lisa, read the question. That's for PACs. We're looking at lobbyists. So that's, yeah.
Oh, I even just got it wrong. I was thinking, oh. All right, so let's repeat that because that is tricky, right? So again, when we're looking at rules for lobbyists versus PAC, right, Mary? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So yeah, when I first read it, I thought, oh, Federal Election Commission, of course. Then when I went back and looked at the answer and it was the federal legislature, I thought, oh, right, answer the darn question. This is asking about lobbyists.
So that is an important one to remember, everyone. It's different for lobbyists versus PAC, which it shouldn't be. I'm going to take that up the ladder. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, that's really good. That's one for me to remember. We have a note from Tammy. So this is a really good note. I recently heard this acronym, MMM. So MMM. Members, so think in this order, membership, mission, money. So you're going to want to think about that, and when you're thinking about considering a question maybe that has more than one good answer, and we're looking for the best answer. So, excellent. So now we'll move on to domain 4. This is my scoopage right here. You guys learned a new word today. By the way, to defenestrate is to be thrown out a window. So you can use that one if somebody annoys you today. All right, so domain 4, knowledge management and research. I just want to remind everybody that this is 4 to 6% of the exam. We're talking 8 to 10 questions out of the 200. So if you want to get off the call now, I don't blame you. We're going to just keep calm and breathe deeply. So we're going to talk quickly about knowledge management systems, research, evaluation, and statistics. It's only 1:20, and I really want to leave plenty of room for us to talk about some, maybe misconceptions, some questions that we don't understand, and so on and so forth. So let's keep them moving. So some key terms under knowledge management systems is communities of practice, customer relationship management, knowledge management, so the difference between these. Under research, evaluation, and statistics, so what is the difference between primary and versus secondary research, and qualitative versus quantitative, and also summative versus formative evaluations. So we're going to look at some of that. So under knowledge management systems, defined is sharing, capturing, and using institutional knowledge to provide services. Also, the benefits include efficient customer service and really creating more value. I've heard knowledge management as being referred to right knowledge with the right people at the right time. When we think about this in a higher level, we think about the amazing amount of baby boomers that are in the industry, in the associations, and the mass knowledge that they have, and the fact that we need, this is why it's probably such a, I think, a major thing in associations right now is to capture that knowledge so that we can use it. We have people coming up that there's no way to get that knowledge except for to have it organized. Let's see. So the types of knowledge are explicit versus tacit. So explicit being written down, something that we can actually categorize and see, things that we would be able to put into a database or into a wiki. Where tacit knowledge is, you're only going to get that through maybe a mentor system or internship. So know the difference between those two terms. Primary elements is the gather, managing, and using the knowledge. We're going to be improving outcomes by introducing processes. So that's an important thing, too, that I've heard again and again through my studies. I made it red. Oops. I made it red because, again, we're looking for processes. We're looking for putting things into place that are going to feed the organization over time. And, of course, another primary element is knowledge transfer and sharing. Some other helpful terms is silo mentality. So when we're talking about the silos, we want to knock those down. That's when we have, people working in these specific areas and no cross contamination. Right, that's probably what someone in a silo would think, but no cross whatever, I'm losing the word, but you know what I mean. And another thing to think about is SCID. SCID being the summary of key issues and direction, user-generated content, web-based virtual communities, and wiki. Oh, no, SCID is a thing on its own. Sorry, SCID is summary of key issues and direction. But we also are then being able to generate user-generated content, web-based virtual communities, and wiki. So does anybody have any questions about these different kinds of things that are, these different kind of products that are coming off of knowledge management? Anybody want to speak on that? Again, 8 to 10 questions. Do not panic. We're just breathing. All right. First step. I've seen this again and again, and you know, I'm always going to scan, 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 but I've seen this a few times that the first step with knowledge management is to assess and develop the organization's taxonomy. I've seen that word a lot. Has anybody seen anything different for knowledge management? Okay. So research, heading into research, defined an organized and systemic, maybe I put that wrong, way of finding answers to questions. So research steps, we're going to identify problems and questions, we're scanning, develop plan to gather the info, collect the data, we're going to then process it, analyze it, and then we're going to report and evaluate it. And by thinking about how we're going to put that together, we're going to be thinking about who the audience is that we're putting this information together for. Some types of research, primary versus secondary, qualitative versus quantitative, and internal versus external. One of the test questions, the practice questions I've seen is which one do you want to get first? Do you want to get primary or secondary? And the answer was secondary. Secondary is going to be cheaper and easier to access. Primary is going to be if you have the money, if you have the time. So secondary research is research that's already out there. It's something that maybe other associations have done. It's stuff that's on the web, or or just through references that you can get. Qualitative data versus quantitative data. I saw a test question on that, a practice test. So qualitative being more maybe interviews with people, things that how people are feeling about things, where quantitative is numbers. Some sampling terms, the science behind it, population or universe, sampling design or frame, a probability sample, a simple random sample, systemic or nth sample is a little bit more complicated, but could be a test question. That's when you're taking, you have a system, maybe every fourth person, maybe you take a certain population, a certain segment, and then you're doing every fifth person, every 15th person. On a test question, I have seen some that actually asked what was the best way, what was the best way to sample people. Some other helpful terms, the measures of central tendency. It's funny, we all learned this in school, but boy, we just need a refresher. This is nothing but memorization. Mean is also, mean is the one you're seeing all the time. That's the average. Median, somebody expressed a great example is like the median is the middle number, right? So median, just like a median strip in a road. Mode being the most often. Some different scales, nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. And nominal being numbers, just, if anybody has any other, like, easy ways to remember this, any Steve Kober, any great ways to remember these, these are memorization only. Now, this table is too much to memorize, but I've seen questions on this. Like if you want, if you want to do the lowest cost with the most complex questions, what are you going to do? Are you going to do a phone, or do you want the quickest answers? So be familiar with this. I don't know that you need to, you're not going to memorize it, but there could be questions based on this table, which is research implementation and comparing the different techniques, mail, online, fax, phone interview, and focus group. I did just see a sample question recently that was, what is the most scientific, and I don't really know why, but it was direct mail. Direct mail. Weird. Anyway. Finally, when we talk about research, we always have to be thinking about antitrust. So we need to remember that any type of research that we do, it is voluntary. We're always going to be looking at the past, not the future. We're going to be putting that into aggregate numbers, not individual. We need a third party or confidential collector of this information. What about that data? Is it available to your community? How about non-members? So remember the rules about research results, that we can actually just share it, share the results with people that that decided to take it. So we can't deny non-members, but if we actually set a rule that only people that took or submitted, I should say, submitted their research are allowed to get the results, we definitely have to include non-members in that. But that's one way to, secure the information. And of course, always in every way, not just with research, but we have to avoid unregulated discussions. So before we go into the questions, does anybody want to add anything about knowledge management or anything that they've seen or thinks is a point that I might have missed? Okay, I'm going to go on to the questions. So what is the first step an association should take to implement a knowledge management program? Identify the knowledge sources, hire a consultant to develop a work plan, decide what knowledge is critical to the mission, identify a clear vision for gathering and using the knowledge base. Does anybody have a guess? What do you think? It's identify a clear vision for gathering and using the knowledge base. I was kind of surprised at this because, again, I just want to follow the rules. I want it always to be an easy scan, but this was the answer. So it is a highest answer. It's pretty high, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in these questions, if something talks about identifying a clear vision or mission, those always kind of pop out to me because as something that happens in the first step arena, because you can't do anything if you don't know what and why you're doing it.
That's a great point.
It fits with that mission members' money.
Yeah, but that's one thing I'm noticing is that Tammy says membership mission money, and I have to say that sometimes I've seen it both ways, and it's confusing. I don't know that we can count on that. So a lot of times it's mission members.
Yeah, I just got it wrong.
Would you think that? I don't know. I don't know if which one it is. Because this is definitely more about the mission. I mean, because we're not saying if we would say members first, wouldn't that be knowledge is critical to the mission? I don't know. Wow. So interesting. Just so you know, that was right out of the book. All right. On to the next. An association's membership services committee is investigating whether members would find a new association statistical program useful. The study must be completed within 8 weeks. The best technique for quickly obtaining reliable data is to include a fax-back questionnaire in the association magazine, conduct focus groups with members, conduct personal interviews with the executive committee, or survey a representative sample of members by telephone. Oops, I kind of gave this one away. Survey a representative. I didn't want to pause there. That is what they're saying is the most quick in obtaining reliable data. So we got a few comments, and I'm going to go ahead and read those. Well, from Rachel, thanks. I think it had to do with implement, which implies the mission work has already done. So that's a really good point. When we hear those key words, like where are we in the process? It's a really great point, Rachel. Thank you. Really great point. One of the things I wanted to point out, too, which is kind of a test-taking little nugget, if we go backwards here, both of these were D. I think even we had a D above. Don't get thrown off if you're doing the test and you start panicking because you're like, oh, my God, this is my 5th D. This possibly couldn't be right. Right? I mean, I don't know if anybody else has gone there. I have gone there. But we have to remember that the CAE, the people that create that test for them, are just pulling from a random bank of so it's just completely random, and you could get quite a few in a row. Oh, I have one more question. I forgot. Okay. In preparing to take the helm at your new association, your research indicates the structure functions in silos. Each department is working in its own separate world of programs, products, or services. You believe your task is to move the organization to a higher level of performance on behalf of the membership. The ideal is shifting your organization to a focus on collaborative knowledge management, allowing for free-flowing sharing of information leveraged for benefit of the members. Before we ask the question, they're asking what our first step should be, but I think this is another really good point to make, that almost everything that I've been learning and seeing as I've been studying for the CAE is collaboration, right? It's process, it's breaking down silos. So this, even though it was under the Domain 4 and knowledge management questions, this could be a leadership question. This could fall under anything, and when we're seeing that, we're going to see I think we're going to see a lot of questions, again, with this management mindset. So back to the question. You're the CSE, and you are trying to get your staff to move out of their silos and focus on collaborative knowledge management. So A, consult with your senior managers as a group. B, conduct a needs assessment of the membership. C, consult with each of your senior managers individually. Or D, hire a consultant experience in organizational development. So what do you guys think? A.
Yeah, I like A too.
Tammy says A. Well, some of the Me Too's. Why don't we walk through this one? We haven't really walked through. Why would you pick A over the other ones? Does somebody want to elaborate?
Well, this is Tammy, and we're talking about the spirit of collaboration, and you're talking about trying to break down silos in your organization. So your senior managers would probably have a good pulse on what's going on in their particular work areas, and if you bring them together as a group, that's where you're bringing in that collaborative, spirit.
Great. So again, but I want to scan. Why wouldn't I conduct a needs assessment of the membership?
Because you're looking at knowledge management, and so you want to go to the people who have the knowledge, and those are your senior managers.
Awesome. I agree. And it's interesting because D is hire a consultant. So again, we want to always be thinking like what is our skill set in-house? And the knowledge management is definitely going to be an in-house thing, right? We're collecting the knowledge that we have in already that these senior managers have. And we definitely don't want to meet with them individually, right? We're breaking down those silos. We want to get them thinking collaboratively. You guys are geniuses. You're all CAEs, right? CAEs waiting to happen. So you will consult with your senior managers as a group. So some recommended resources. Of course, this is right out of our orange guides. But I think, again, when we come to this, don't forget that it's only, that small portion of our test. So we need to keep calm. Got to keep remembering to breathe all through the test and all through these next 2 weeks. And I would really appreciate the opportunity to hear from everyone, like what kind of challenges are you still experiencing? What domains are you struggling with? I can let you guys, just to kick it off. I took a practice test, the Michigan Society. I'm in D.C., but my office supported me working with Michigan Society on their virtual course, and they had a huge day of practice test where we actually did 200 questions for 4 hours, and I only got I got a 71, and I'm still struggling with really with governance. That's what I'm struggling with, and that to me is not memorization, right? That's mostly going to be these really judgment calls. So that's kind of where I'm struggling, and I don't have any questions as an example to share with you, but I'd love to hear it if you have questions that you've seen on practice tests that you don't understand how they got this answer. And I think we should talk through, because I've also heard through the grapevine that some people are not that happy with some of the questions that are in the orange book, our big fat ASAE orange book. So we should really, not only are they not happy, but they probably won't be on the test because they're not valid. So it'd be good for us to recognize that as a group too, if that's one you're struggling with. So I'm going to turn this back over to Mary. But Mary, do you want to kind of take it from here?
Absolutely. Okay. Does everyone see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So we were kind of talking before we kicked off, and Cheryl and Lisa and I were talking about exactly what Cheryl just said, but taking the practice exam. And so Lisa and I have both taken the practice exam in the back of the Orange Book, and we actually, here in Atlanta, did it as part of our state society's kind of prep day for big exam next Friday, and we took it in the same room that we're going to take the actual exam in. So that was really nice. But it also afforded us an opportunity after we went through the 100 practice questions to talk about the ones we got wrong. So Lisa and I have compared notes, and I have some questions ready to go, but just to share, this is, again, the practice exam that's in the back of your Orange Book. It starts on page 303. And so I have a couple questions, or I think one question related to kind of what we talked about today. So I thought that'd be a good starting point. And then I have all the questions that Lisa and I both got wrong. So we can kind of start there and work through. And then if we have time at the end, if people want to come back. So this is question 61. Important legislation is introduced to Congress. Sorry, my little dashboard is in my way. That will benefit 2 to 3 coalition associations to the detriment of the third. To address this situation, the coalition leaders should, forgive my typo, promote the legislation to maintain the integrity of the coalition. B, withdraw support for the bill based on lack of uniform support by the coalition. C, agree that the issue be pursued outside the coalition by the individual associations. Or D, formally dissolve the coalition because it's not been effective. Do we have thoughts on which one is right?
I mean, this is Lisa. I like C because A basically says, screw you guys who don't agree, and that's not the point of a coalition. B, we don't have uniform support by the coalition, so that one's out. And then D, there's no reason to formally dissolve the coalition. There may be issues that come up in the future that it would be effective for. So for me, C was the best answer.
So I got this one wrong, and I will tell you my thinking. I chose B, withdraw support for the bill based on the lack of uniform support. So I was thinking the coalition has to stick together, right? And so if one person isn't going to benefit, then we should withdraw our support. But, Lisa, you're absolutely right. If it benefits the majority, then it's completely fine for the individual associations that it would benefit to pursue the issue outside of the coalition. So, you know, it's correct that the coalition shouldn't pursue it because it doesn't make sense for all of the members. But the ones who would benefit absolutely should, and that's appropriate.
Well, it's important to remember what the purpose of a coalition is. Usually it's not like we're merging and we're going to be living happily ever after. It's that we're coming together for the support of one issue, right? So that's what's so important to remember, that we don't have to agree on everything as a coalition. We have a focus, and if there isn't focus, we need to remember that. That's actually a question I saw. We need to create that focus. We need to, keep everyone focused when we're working in a coalition on the one thing that we're trying to accomplish, right?
Great.
So
here's one that Lisa and I both got wrong. A new chief staff executive learns that the association does not have a records retention policy. In developing such a policy, what language should be included regarding the minutes of board of directors meetings? A, minutes are available upon request. B, minutes should be retained in perpetuity. C, approved minutes should be placed online for members to read. And D, minutes can be destroyed after 7 years.
Sorry, Mary, this one is actually 34 in mine. Are these in a different order in people's different books? That would be really interesting.
Nope, I just typed the number wrong. It is number 34. Sorry.
Okay.
So I see someone says, a few people are saying B.
Yes, I did get this one wrong also.
And so B is the correct answer.
So again, this is just memorization, is that correct? Like we just need to know as a group that minutes are retained in perpetuity, whatever that word.
Perpetuity.
Thank you.
Yes, and I think you're talking specifically about records retention. So A is true that minutes are available upon request, but you're talking about retention, not kind of the sharing, right? So that's the key word here. So you're retained is actually in the answer.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a really good point, too, when we're looking at these questions to think about there's more than one good answer, right? We have to, when we have more than one good answer, it's time to relook at the question, right, and really see what it's asking. What are the key words?
Great. So if we move on to 71, and hopefully I got the question number right on this one. Very few nominations have been received over the last several years for an association's highest honor. How should an objective evaluation of the award be implemented? A, survey members on the continuation of the award. B, assess award criteria to determine what percentage of membership would qualify. C, assess award criteria in relation to what members deem worthy of recognition. D, poll former award recipients regarding the impact of the award on their career or professional development.
I had a very difficult time between B and C, and I was going off of objective evaluation. And for me, they're both subjective. But B seemed less subjective to me. However, that is not the correct answer. So now I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking at with this question.
Sure. So I did the exact same thing. I put B. Because I thought, well, how many people are even eligible for this? And I was thinking, I guess, from knowledge management side, how that would get at my denominator to see why aren't people even nominating people. Maybe people aren't eligible. But I think this gets back to scanning your members instead of thinking you might know what's best for them, asking them, because the correct answer, is C. And so if the members don't feel that that's kind of an area that they want to recognize, or that the criteria isn't really relevant to what they would want to recognize as an achievement in their field, then it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So maybe it's something that was novel 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and you just kept having this award, and now the field has changed. So it just goes back to scanning your members and letting them kind of tell you what's best. Any additional thoughts on that one? But I put B as well and got it wrong. If that makes you feel any better, I don't know. It seems like I think we put the same answers for all the ones we got wrong.
Yeah, I know. I think we're sharing a brain. I think.
Yeah. So the next one should be an easy question, but I got this one wrong. So let's see how much smarter everyone else is than me.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Which of the following is the most important reason to implement an email marketing campaign? A, it increases targeted response rates. B, it offers improved cost-benefit ratios. C, it reduces staff time necessary for effective marketing. D, it increases the frequency of marketing efforts. And on this one, I think the keywords are, what is the most important reason? So not necessarily, what is a benefit, but what's the most important reason that you would do this?
Yeah, I picked A. I was going after the whole targeting, and I thought that was more important than cost-benefit ratios because we're supposed to have unlimited funds.
Right. So everyone else is chatting the correct answer, which is B, but I did the exact same thing. I thought, oh, it's email marketing, so it must be about response rates because you can do more accurate things, through email.
Yeah.
The most important reason would be the cost benefit, which benefit takes into account, right? That's the targeted response, but you want to look at how those work together. And so this one is B, and it looks like a lot of people said that. But people are commiserating with us that they thought A as well, so thank you.
I think your comment that helps me the most on this one is that the benefit portion speaks to the targeted response rates. It's like you're getting all of this benefit at a reduced cost. It's not just saying it offers improved cost. It's cost-benefit ratios. So the benefit is kind of rolled into that one.
Right.
At least that's how I'm going to think about it to help me get this type of question in the future.
That works for me. All right. And I don't no, maybe one of us got this one wrong. An association with several subsidiary corporations decides to create another subsidiary. Monitoring the activity of these subsidiaries has significantly expanded the length of board meetings. What governance solution for the new subsidiary should the chief staff executive recommend? A, an independent board should be formed to govern all subsidiaries. B, executive staff should serve as the board of the new subsidiary. C, management of the new subsidiary should be outsourced to an association management company. Or D, all subsidiaries should adopt the same bylaws. So here's a governance question for you, Cheryl.
You know, it's funny because I took all these and I'm still like, no.
Okay, so I see some people giving answers. Well, I feel like Lisa and I have been talking so much. Dana, are you on audio? Are you able to share your thoughts?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I don't remember having this question before, but I do feel that the answer is A because I'm not sure what chapter or what domain that was in, but they discussed that sometimes when you do share boards, often the timing can become long, or, for example, if you had an executive committee be your board, because of the turnover of the volunteer staff, that sometimes they're not aware of everything, and it just may be best to keep them separate, so that's why I picked A.
I like your reasoning very much, which is why I picked C. What got me with A was the all.
So that got me.
I read all and was like, oh, no, can't be that one.
That got me too, but let's look at, so Dana is correct. The answer is A, and so that, I chose A also. I actually got this one right, but that hung me up too, that all subsidiaries. But then why not use the, or if you're going to do it for one, why not do it for all? Because it's cutting into the board meetings of your main association. So I kind of talked myself down off that ledge. We know right away that B is wrong, right? And we know right away that D is wrong.
Yep.
So that leaves you A and C. And so if you look at management of the new subsidiary should be outsourced, why just the new subsidiary? So it kind of singles out the one. So you would outsource just the most recent one, and you don't have enough information to know if it's significantly different than the others or anything like that. So that's how I landed back on A. But those are definitely...
Yeah, and,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And also, chances are, like, outsourcing, consulting is kind of a last resort. So I figured that it would be easiest to.
I did see a practice question where they were actually hiring a consultant was the first thing to be done, and it was for PR, and it was when you're looking to do you've never done it before, and that was actually the correct answer. So that was just something to look for, guys.
That's great.
Yeah, that was tricky. I got that one wrong. I remember that one.
I remember that one too.
Before we leave this one, I just have one other question. I targeted what governance solution for the new subsidiary should be recommended.
Yep.
So for my thought was, we are only looking at what should happen with the new subsidiary. So again, that was another reason why I didn't like A. I like all your reasoning.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out a way to make this not happen again for me.
I guess that comes down to they say don't overthink, but gosh, they say don't overthink, but then there's these little trick words in these, right?
And also, I mean, some of these questions I don't know how to get to those answers, but I'm like, well, it just made sense out of the options. But when you think about it, like realistically, they're not going to just have a separate board for one subsidiary. They would probably have an independent board that could just manage all of them. So even though that number C says management of the new subsidiary, it wouldn't make sense if there's other subsidiaries just to have that one outsourced, unless it was like a certification body, like, the commission or something like that. So that's just one other thing to think about, that even though the answer does say the new one or it singles one out, it usually means, think about the whole picture.
Oh, okay, yeah, good. Okay.
I like it. All right. Pretend that E is a B, or has a B in front of it. Number 18, which of the following responsibilities should be performed by the chief staff executive? A, hiring in-house counsel. B, selecting the association's auditor. C, establishing a board attendance policy. Or D, selecting committee chairs.
this is governance. Did I get it?
You did. What did other people? What did other people struggle with on this one?
To me, it was just going through everything else, and I would think, looking at it, maybe establishing a board attendance policy, but no, it really needs to come from the board.
Exactly.
You know, so they have buy-in. So
and
that would be the only one.
I would think that, okay, for me, this one, C and D are out because of exactly what you just said, because that needs to be board to board or volunteer to volunteer. So you take those out. But selecting the association's auditor, if you think back to the financial, technically the CSE does hire, right, the auditor. But they,
what it was.
but they don't select. The auditors actually can present to the board, and the board selects them, and they report back to the board, but the chief staff executive hires and manages and works with them directly. So when hiring and firing, right, of staff, not the CSE, but the CSE's duties in that area are hiring and firing. So they hire and fire all staff. The board has no say over that. They only hire and fire the CSE.
Yep, that's what got me, the select.
Yep.
That was an interesting thing that I just learned about, like, the in-house counsel's really working for the board, not for the you know.
Right.
Not for the staff of the association. That was surprising. That was interesting.
Yep. It's a good point to make, too. So that kind of hits back, it hits 3 different domains, right? So it's not just governance, but it's also legal and accounting and operations, kind of all tied up in that one. So that's a good sample one. Maybe a softball, but I got this one wrong. Which of the following employer actions expressly prohibited by the ADA? A, administering a drug test to a new hire. B, requiring a prospective employee to take a medical exam. C, denying a leave request for a serious medical condition. Or D, modifying an employee's work schedule. Loud and proud, people. Shout it out.
B.
Everyone else? Yeah? Smarter than me? I said C. B is correct. And you want to share with us, Lisa, the key word in that one?
For me, let's see. The key word in B was I have my test out here, and I've got perspective underlined, and I've got a little check next to A saying allowed, and then a little star next to B saying can do after hired.
You're absolutely right. So perspective is the key word in that one.
Because A is new hire. Yeah.
Yep. And B is someone that you haven't hired yet. So if physical duties are part of their job description, you can have staff that you have hired take a medical exam, but you cannot ask people who you have not made an offer to and not hired to take a medical exam. There you go. Oh, that's all the practice questions I have. Are we okay on time? We have about 5 minutes left. So just a reminder that Tuesday there's a cram chat. This is a link. I'll send it out again today after this, but I'm going to stop talking and if other people have questions or things they want to share, you have the floor.
I got a pretty simple one wrong yesterday on that sample when it was asking what are you going to see on the statement of financial position, and one of them was loans. And I was like, loans aren't going to be on there. And they are because they're, they're not going to be listed as loans, but they're,
a liability, yeah.
They're a liability, so they'll be on there if they just use some tricky language.
It is tricky.
Tricky. Did anybody else have any questions? Anything that we can expand on and talk about till we're blue in the face?
Well, I had the question 39 about, it was about advertising. It was a 501c3, and they want to increase their revenue by advertising to its monthly publication. And the first 2 answers were obviously wrong for me, but then I had a difficult time with the association will be subject to unrelated business income tax on gross advertising revenue received, and the association will be subject to unrelated business income tax on profits earned by selling advertising. And I don't understand the difference between gross advertising revenue received and profits earned by selling advertising?
Well, when you have a profit, it's going to be what you make after you, like, say you have a yard, you're selling advertising, you actually have to pay salespeople, you have a graphic designer. So you can't really make a profit till you know how much you have left after paying those people. So that is it. It's going to be on the profit. You only pay you, because you're allowed to use any kind of costs against the to take away from it that you're going to be paying.
So actually, yeah, you're absolutely right. So the answer is the one about profits. And again, it's a terminology, a tricky thing. So I was going to say, actually, they kind of trick you up not using net, right? So most of us say gross or net.
Yeah.
But that's all it is.
I was like, is that not the same thing? Okay.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. So you would pay it on net, not gross.
Net, not gross. Thank you. I was like,
Yes.
why do I think that gross advertising revenue and profit is the same thing? Okay.
Yeah, so I guess profit being net. Profit
Correct.
is net. Like, what do you end up with? You end up with a
Yes.
profit or net. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely right. That's a great example.
That was a really good example. Thanks for bringing that one up. All right, everybody, don't forget to breathe. Good luck.